when you're going through a breast cancer diagnosis, like you said, you don't have a map. You're just trying to do the best you can to go through it. And so, God, how awful must that be if you don't trust the information that you're being given and you don't know how to navigate it? I mean, that makes it 10 times harder.
If you have the wherewithal to find someone who you do feel that way about, you keep looking until you find it, because these are really important decisions that you're making that are going to potentially affect the rest of your life. And so I would say tamping on the brakes just a moment to make sure that you're with the person that's working with you. I mean, most people know when they walk in a room if they're going to get along with their doctor or understand each other, and just being open to listening to that, because I think it's really important to have a good relationship with your cancer doctor.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls, conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. We are so excited for this episode, and it is one I know that you listeners are going to want to buckle up for, because you're going to walk away with so many golden nuggets. But before we really dive in, you know the drill. We have to let you know what we're drinking. And today I am drinking from our local winery, Myrtle Creek, shout out, a Cab Franc, but it's
Fancy.
About the glass. It's not about the drink. I don't know if you can tell.
Oh, cute. So it's Queen, right? Very cute.
Queen, yes. What are you drinking,
cute.
Lisa?
So, you know me and my hop water. I'm trying to expand my horizons. So I don't even know how to say it, but it's Loop sparkling water from Fort George.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think, I'll be honest, Loop people, send us some to review. But I think I like the hop water and the Pelican Brewery one a little bit more. This is a little tart, but it's refreshing, so we'll just go with it. Plus, I'm drinking it in my mason jar glass because my children have broken all my glasses and I couldn't find a clean one. So there you go. That's about as bougie as it gets. So I have the pleasure of introducing our guest. She's going to tell us what she's drinking and then talk to you a little bit about who she is and why she's here. But this is Dr. Christine Kollmorgen of Oregon Surgical Wellness. We're totally happy to have her here. So Doctor, why don't you tell us what you are drinking, and then we will go from there.
Well, I wish I was drinking something with alcohol in it. However, I've been working all day and just saw my last patient. So I am going with my classic Spindrift. This day it's mango orange.
Yum.
And I'm a big Spindrift person. I like fizzy water. It's refreshing. So that's mine today.
All right. So Karen was funny because she's like, okay, remind me of what her specialty is again. And I was like, it's really funny because you're in this community long enough, everybody's name seems familiar. So I was like, I'm going to let her talk, but I'm pretty sure back in the day, she was like a pretty traditional OBGYN, because back when I was having my kids, I remember seeing your name floating around in certain practices. But tell us what you do, why you started Oregon Surgical Wellness, and just kind of what you're all about.
Oh, well, first off, I want to thank both of you for having me on the podcast. This is my first podcast, so it's very exciting. And I did listen to many episodes of Drinks with the Girls on a long drive up to Seattle and back. So thank you. I loved it. And particularly, I loved the sandwich, the dripping cheese analogy, because I just experienced that with my parents. And I want you to know I used some of the words of wisdom from that podcast in my experience with my parents recently. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I am a general surgeon by trade. My trained at Mayo Clinic, and my husband at the time and I wanted to experience the great Pacific Northwest. So we moved to Eugene, Oregon, where we felt was a pretty sophisticated medical community for its size. And general surgery, not gyne surgery. And this, by the way, was 27 years ago. General surgery at the time, we did kind of everything. We did some breast surgery, we did some pediatric surgery, we did some vascular surgery, all the specialties. And over time, as you know, medicine has become so subspecialized. And about 15 or 18 years ago, I decided to focus in on breast surgical oncology. And I was in a big group, all men. I got a lovely female partner. And of course, women like to go to women for women's health issues. We started seeing more and more of the breast cancer in our group. And what we realized was we really weren't doing a full comprehensive job for the full comprehensive breast cancer management. And we decided we needed to break out of our multi-specialty general surgery group and really focus in on catering to women with breast disease and breast cancer. And our goal was very, very specific. We wanted to really lower the cortisol levels of our patients. And the way I thought about this was we see about 450 new breast cancer patients a year among other types of surgeries. And if you can lower the cortisol level of 450 people, each one of those people has a loved one or two or three, and a family is always involved when cancer is involved. So you're going to lower that cortisol level of potentially 1,500 patients or people a year, which that I think makes a community impact. And you do that 10 years, you do the math, that's a lot of stress relief. And we were really aiming at preventing patients from having to self-navigate the whole situation and just make that experience where the patient left feeling that we really did care about them. Because you know what it's like, especially now there's shortages in getting in to see specialists, and people call, they don't get an answer right away, and they walk away feeling like no one cares about me, and I have this big scary disease and I can't get through the system and no one's helping me get through it. So that was really the impetus to starting Oregon Surgical Wellness. We even put the name Surgical Wellness in there. It's kind of a quirky name, but I wanted, surgery doesn't feel good to be inside your name, but I am a surgeon. No one likes the thought of having surgery, but I didn't want to be thought of as someone that was creating stress. So that's why we added the wellness at the end of our name.
So you set out to focus on breast cancer surgery, but also under the wellness umbrella, like having it'll never be an easy situation, but having it be as easy as possible. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I think if you think about the cycle of care from the time you get your diagnosis until the time you have your what we call multimodality treatment, because almost all breast cancers are treated with surgery, radiation, and some form of chemotherapy. All of these involve other avenues and aspects of care. And when you're by yourself trying to navigate through that system, it can be scary because you don't know what you don't know. And so our goal was, first of all, we had 2 docs, 8 women staff. We outsourced or put off our business office, wasn't even in our office. We decorated the office to look a lot like a spa. If I was in my office waiting area, you'd see. I have a collection of artwork that's all original, made from Oregon artists, beautiful, beautiful art all throughout the office, not your classic, poster art that most offices have. And really just tried to make it a calming, quiet, smaller environment with really good communication and connection with the other specialists in town that they were going to be interfacing with, and a very robust tumor board, which means we present the cases in an academic way in a group setting. And so the goal was to make it a comprehensive center, even though we're not a university, right? We're in Eugene, Oregon. There's no medical school here. We don't have a big, Moffitt, Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic. I was from Mayo Clinic, so I understood how that's supposed to work. And I was trying to emulate that in a smaller, I don't want to call it boutique because that sounds not right with medicine, but in a smaller way, in a smaller town. So to give really good cutting edge care, but in a comprehensive way. And I think it's been incredibly rewarding. We incorporated a naturopath and an acupuncturist in our office. We have great connection with nutritionists so that we could really consider the whole healing cycle, not just, oh, you have breast cancer, let's cut it out. Here you go. Best of luck to you. You're off to the medical oncologist now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And do you take patients from Southern California?
Do you do telehealth?
Right.
We do. We do a lot of telehealth. We take patients honestly from all over the state. Our catchment area is pretty huge. Not huge, but it's more than just the Lane County where we live now. We see patients from Coos Bay, Oregon, and right now Corvallis area lost their breast surgical oncologist, so we're seeing a lot of patients from there too. And we actually just added a new surgeon, a new Tisha Shiozaki. She is a formally trained breast surgical oncologist, so she had some extra training in breast surgical oncologist. We're thrilled that she's joining the practice. So yeah, and again, it's not perfect, but we really do our best to try to give that whole cycle a calming environment.
Well, probably the best compliment I can pay you, because Karen was like, well, how did you end up seeing her? And I was like, oh, I had kind of a wonky mammogram and all these things. And I remember walking in there still having no clue like what you did. Like I knew it had something to do with like my wonky mammogram, but they had said everything was fine. So I'm like, this place looks like a spa. Like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like I could hang out with these people. Never in a million years was I like, this was a place for breast cancer. Like it just never really entered my mind. So it sounds like that's the vibe you're going for, just in terms of like wanting people to feel really calm. So there you go.
When you said, you just want women to not feel alone, I mean, I think that in itself, I used to have a wonderful OBGYN. I used to live about an hour and a half away, and she was fantastic. And then she decided to retire, and I'm still salty about it because with her, I felt that, because I've been having mammograms since I was 30 because of my risk and all that. And I tell you, since I've not had her, I've had a bad, mammogram, had to get the biopsy, blah, blah, blah. It's like I do feel alone because I haven't found that like supportive, even an OB-GYN out here. So I just think what you're creating is incredible.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
And it's funny because I'm remembering back to my mom's cancer journey, which was very different than from Karen's mom's. My mom ended up passing of Parkinson's, and for her it was like there were some mitigating circumstances. She left it too long, but basically they had to be so invasive with her breast cancer that it just put the Parkinson's on steroids. And while they got the cancer, there were these other things. So I'm giving you a very simplified version, but I remember my mom saying, I go to these places and I just feel like people are pitying me. Oh, honey, this and that and the other. She goes, and it just makes me like, you knew my mom, Karen, like that was the last thing she could be down with as well. She's a very religious woman, spiritual woman, but she said it just drove her crazy. She just felt pitied. And I don't know if that was just in her head or that was how she felt, but I mean, she felt how she felt,
Well, I will say, if you think about it, a lot of places, if you're going to a larger center, you may be entering a waiting room where there are patients who are undergoing chemotherapy for cancer, and that's very scary, right? You could be a young, now we're seeing more and more young patients with cancer, which is insane. But we'll see, you could be a 30-year-old, you have no idea what just hit you. You're walking into a waiting room with patients who've lost their hair or who look like they've lost weight, and you don't even know what your journey is about yet. And we just really didn't want to commingle all of that because oftentimes we're the first entry point for breast cancer. Before you've been, had any treatment whatsoever, you've had your biopsy maybe in the radiology department. Maybe they did a great job explaining what was going on. Maybe they didn't. And then you come to us with, what is this? Am I Is it something small or is it something really dangerous? It could be anything in between. And so the last thing you want to do is sit in the waiting room and sort of fantasize about the worst case scenario as you're seeing other people around you. And that might be where that sort of feeling of pity comes from.
Yeah.
Just because there are people around that might be doing a lot worse off than you will be or want to be. So that was, again, part of our goal in branching off and being kind of a standalone, smaller, cozy, good feeling, good vibed office.
So there's so many things I want to ask you, but I feel like I want to take it back just a little bit and kind of go
Sure.
for more of a general thing. You know, we talk a lot about women's health on this podcast, both like physical, just self-care, like the whole thing. And you've seen, you know, you've been doing this for a while and you've seen, quote unquote, the industry change a lot. In terms of where we are in 2025, what would you say would be the most important message you can give women today about putting their best foot forward when it comes to breast health? Like, what are some things that women can absolutely be doing now to really give themselves the best chance of living a healthy life where breast health is concerned?
Yeah, there's a lot, but I will tell you that I could go on for about 3 hours on that topic.
That's all good. We'll have you back. It's
But
fine.
I'm going to give you the best bang for the buck. And this data is so good and so solid, and it's being repeated over and over, not just for breast cancer, but for all cancers.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
And that is exercise. There is a new concept, not so new, about 10 years old, called exercise oncology. And what they did, they meaning multiple, Dana-Farber, they've done this in England, everywhere. They've studied, what is the minimum amount of exercise that you need to do to reduce your risk of cancer. And interestingly enough, it's not that much. If you do 5 30-minute sessions of exercise a week, 3 aerobic and 2 resistance training, that is almost as good as taking an anti-hormone pill like tamoxifen. And the data's been repeated over and over. So even if you do an hour, it doesn't get you any more risk reduction than the 30 minutes. And if you think about this for a minute, if you could put that in a pill, it would be the size of an apple, because there are so many good things that just that amount of exercise do for your body as a whole. Number one, it's going to reduce your cortisol level. I keep going back to cortisol. It's your stress hormone, right? You look at something yucky on YouTube or Instagram or whatever news you're looking at, and our cortisol levels all and so it's going to just take that down a notch. Number two, you're usually doing that kind of exercise with people, which means you're connecting, you're talking, maybe you're talking through some difficult problem, or you're saying hello to somebody that you love or enjoy being with. The ritual of being with somebody like that, that's going to raise your dopamine, serotonin levels. That's all endorphins. Endorphins, we know, improve your immune system. Your body's making cancer cells every single day, and your immune system's fighting those cancer cells off. And if you don't have a good immune system, that's when these things slip through. So you're doing all that, connecting, dropping your cortisol level. Now you're also, I always call it trimming the bush. When you go out, you see your kind of lanky bush out there, your rose bush, and you trim off the areas that aren't healthy, it grows better. It grows back thicker. You trim your hair, it grows back thicker. Well, when you're exercising, you're doing that to every type of cell in your body. You're trimming the bush. That's what happens. That's why you build muscle when you're exercising. And then we can get in the weeds in terms of when should you exercise and what kind of nutrition you should eat when you're exercising and how do you build muscle and all those things. I'm not so interested in that because that gets complicated. And I want, what could I give to the population as a whole that's going to reduce the risk? It doesn't cost money. You don't have to go to a gym and pay gym money. You can literally do that with $15 bands you bought on Amazon and going for a walk. The single most risk reduction thing that you can possibly do.
Okay, three sessions a week of aerobic exercise, and when we say aerobic, we don't mean like Jamie Lee Curtis leg warmers,
brisk walk,
like crazy aerobic.
Brisk walk
for 30 minutes, and 2 sessions a week of strength training, whatever that looks like. Okay.
Pilates, yoga. So even if you can't, let's say you couldn't walk, like maybe some people can't walk. You have to get creative, but you can even do chair yoga. You can get the exercise bands are incredible. Some sort of resistance and or weight training, small weights, bands, things like that, or a formal Pilates class or a formal yoga class. 30 minutes. That's it. Two 30-minute sessions. So five sessions, 30 minutes apiece, 3 aerobic, 2 resistance training or weights.
Okay.
It's doable, right?
Totally.
We can do that.
Totally.
We can all do that. And now, again, there's plenty of people that are doing way more than that, but there's a lot of people that are not even coming close. They may be single moms, they may be working, they may be a little overweight and don't feel like they can do any of those things because they have joint issues, but you've got to start trying. And it's incredibly beneficial.
Wow. Mic drop.
I think that I'm so surprised that is what you said. And like I said, I was a little nervous you were going to say, stop drinking your glass of wine every night. And I know that is a factor also. But the thing that I love about what you said is, like you said, it's doable. That is a way that women take control of their health and something that potentially is going to make them feel really out of control, a cancer diagnosis. So I love that. I think that's fantastic.
Well, I was just going to add super quick caveat. Even under treatment, if you are getting chemo, if you can keep that up, your risk of recurrence drops and your risk of having longer survival rates increases.
Wow.
So we used to say, under treatment, don't exercise, rest, and do all these things. No, you crawl out of your hole even if you're feeling terrible, and you continue to move forward with your exercise program as best you can. It improves your outcome. And there's a lot of very robust data to support it. Yep.
And I think sometimes I fall in this trap, and I know this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but we love our rabbit holes on this podcast. I sometimes feel like if I'm not out there like doing 10,000 steps and doing it, like, why bother, right? Which is stupid. Like, it's really dumb. So I love this idea of just be consistent with that. And that
Absolutely.
is going to give you massive, massive help in this area. That's great. I love that.
Okay. You want another one?
Please, yes.
Okay. Well, that's the biggest one. That's the one that has the most data. Now, this is a Chris Kollmorgen rule. This is Dr. Kollmorgen's rule. And we have to do this by having a thought experiment. This is a little bit more psychosocial, and it's it's like one of those most obvious hidden things. So if we were to think about a lemon right now, and I want you to envision a lemon, put it on a nice wooden cutting board, get your favorite knife and cut into it. And then I want you to pick a piece of that lemon up. I wish I can show my hands. Here they are. And I want you to squeeze lemon into your mouth and let that lemony taste swash around in there. Now, right now, feel in your mouth. Do you have a little bit more spit? Because I do, just with that thought experiment. I've done this so many times. I get so much spit in my mouth. Yep, but you've got it. It's in there. So my question to you is, how did we make a gland called the salivary gland make spit in our mouth with no real lemon here? We thought it, didn't we? Mm-hmm. We just thought about a lemon, and our brain, thinking and imagining a lemon, made spit in our mouth. Well, the breast is a gland. It's just one big gland. It makes milk. It's going to be sensitive to the thoughts that we have all day long. So if you think for a minute that the thoughts and feelings that we have on a chronic basis, maybe we learned them, surprise, surprise, from our parents who had these chronic thought habits, these sort of maladaptive ways of dealing with life, and we inherited all that stuff, sadly, and no matter how hard we try to break it, we can't get rid of it. But if you think about it, if we have sort of not good thoughts, and when I say not good thoughts, I mean thoughts that stress us out, thoughts that are chronically negative, thoughts that are antithetical to that connection that you get when you're walking with your friend, that plays out in your body over time. It's not good for you. And so the breast being a gland is going to be sensitive to those things. Again, I can't prove this, but I can prove that I can make spit in my mouth by thinking about a lemon. I think negative feelings, negative thoughts, they create tension, they create just not good juju in our body that then lowers our immune system and allows those cancer cells to slip through. So I do think that profound stressful events and perseveration over stress and chronic trauma, I think I listened to a podcast about trauma that you did recently too. Those things, not only are they psychologically harmful for our life and our relationships, but they also are physically harmful. And we never really make that mind body. We all talk about mind body, but we don't really walk the walk and really think about it. And so my lemon experiment is proof. I mean, prove me wrong.
You know,
right?
and it's so interesting because, I mean, when you talk about what the function of that gland is, like I've had children, Karen's had children, right? We breastfed our children. Just like the thought of my kid crying and my breast
feel
will
it.
fill up with milk. Yeah, totally, 100%. And it's so sensitive to that, right? Like instant flood of hormones. There's literally this visceral thing that happens with the gland when you hear your baby cry.
Right?
It produces milk. And so of all the glands in our body, I would think that the breast is one that's super primed to thought, emotion, experience, and all that. I love that idea.
It 100% is. And the reason how I came up with this, and no one's really written about this much, but there is data to show, okay, breast cancer went on the rise when, and it happens in other countries too, when women enter the workforce, there's more stress. Women's natural, 6 million years of evolution of women, obviously, we're changing. There's wonderful feministic, concepts of what women can and should be. But 6 million years, they were the nurturers. They were taking care of everyone. And you go to work, you take care of everyone at work. You go home, you're taking care of everyone at home, including your husband sometimes, who they become need. Now we're taking care of our parents, aka your last podcast was beautiful about several podcasts back. We're in the sandwich, right? We're in the panini, where the cheese is dripping out on all ends and burning, and you can see the curve of the incidence of breast cancer rises even in third world countries as more and more women enter their workforce. There's more breast cancer, and so I can only imagine there's something psychosocial and stress related to just being too much.
That makes so much sense.
So I don't have data to prove that, but it kind of makes sense to me. It's like get a hand. And I'm not saying no, don't work or any of those things. It's mostly be aware of how your body is feeling. Be aware of what your stress buttons are. And like your podcast is all about. I mean, this is what your entire mission is let's have some cognitive behavioral therapy around what we're doing and how that affects our body. And then we're going to live a healthier life, right? So that's the second one.
And I think just talking about it also, because I think back to when my mom was diagnosed, you didn't talk about it. Like you just, you didn't talk about it. And I and I was a young woman at the time. And I didn't know how to navigate having those conversations with her even, but I can only imagine how alone she felt. And I'm hoping she did have good girlfriends, but I'm hoping she leaned on them. What do you think about that piece? I know you kind of alluded to it a little bit before with the exercise piece, like if you that connection, but what do you think about, like, in terms of just friendships or female friendships, or just being able to talk with somebody about it?
This is my third one, which is connection. And there's actually there's data on this. So women who have longitudinal friends, and you can look it up there. I think there was an article in New York Times about this past year. They tend to be healthier. And you have that longitudinal friendship. These people know who you are. You have confidence. You can get out what's inside and be heard by someone authentically that knows you over a long period of time. So I think there's, I don't have specific data on that on breast cancer. Having said that, there is data on that on other health issues. So it's not a bad thing, that's for sure. It's making sure you have connection. Now, you can imagine one of the hardest things that I deal with, honestly, one of the things that just is crushing to me is occasionally I have these beautiful older women who come in and they don't have anyone. They have breast cancer and they have no one. There's no one even to drive them to their surgery. And I'm sort of boggled by the fact that people can get through life and come in at, age 60 or 70 years old and not have a person, not even a church member or a neighbor. Those folks struggle. They do not have good outcomes. The ones that come in with a big posse, my partners don't like here comes, this woman and she's got a posse of people with her in the room, and it's standing room only in the room. And honestly, I actually love those because usually the people are more reasonable and understanding of the process, and they also have this big love around them that helps them get through, and they do better. They tend to do better. Isn't that kind of crazy?
I mean, I saw it, and the story of this podcast, like our moms were the best of friends. And, when Karen's mom, Patty, really started to succumb to her cancer, like my mom was right there, man. She lived maybe, I don't know, in traffic a couple hours away. And I remember at a young age, like her being like, nope, I got to go be with Patty today. Like she wrote notes, she would come over, and that was very important to her. And, obviously it didn't save Patty's life, but I bet it made it a lot more bearable to know that she had this network of people around her.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I love seeing that. As a physician, it makes my job a lot easier.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my midlife reclamation guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers.
So let's switch gears for a second. So because Lisa and I both have breast cancer in our history, talk about dense breasts. Do you have dense breasts, Lisa? I feel like 80% of women have dense breasts. Is that true?
That's a little bit exaggerated. So I think dense breasts really segue in really nicely to what you really want to talk about is high risk breasts. So we run a high risk breast clinic. What qualifies as high risk breast? High risk breast means that your risk of breast cancer, instead of being average, like 10 to 12%, yours is going to be 20% or higher. And there are a number of things that put you in a high risk breast category. Number one is dense breasts. Dense breasts are obviously metabolically active. They have more glandular tissue in there. It's harder to see what's going on a mammogram. They measure the density of a breast on an image by giving it a score, and it's called the CAT system, CAT. So dense breasts are C or above. D, dense density, they typically require more than just a mammogram for annual screening. So what that more can be depends on where you live and what's available to you for imaging. A wonderful tool for dense breasts is something called an automated breast ultrasound, or ABUS. It's a big bowling ball kind of machine that rolls over your breast, and it looks at the entire breast inside using ultrasound, sound waves. So it's very benign. It's not like you have to get gadolinium in an MRI, and that gadolinium with the MRI can cause renal issues, yada, yada. You're not getting extra radiation. And it's a really excellent tool. If you don't have automated breast ultrasound available to you in your community, then even something like a 3-dimensional mammogram can be helpful. A 3-dimensional mammogram really is just like a mammogram, only it takes things at kind of click angles. So you're getting more, instead of just the 2-dimensional, here's the one squish, here's the other squish, it's going to be a several angle squish, and is able to penetrate the tissues and look more closely at that tissue. And then in some cases, in extreme breast density, an MRI is really one of the only things that can see through all that tissue to see is there a tumor or a mass or something evolving in that breast. So that's one thing that puts you at risk for high-risk breasts. Another thing would be what we would call familial breast cancer, or family history of breast cancer. And there's all different types of scoring systems that we use that take the data, like when was your first period, how many children have you had, how many breast biopsies have you had, and it'll calculate what your risk is based again on the way you answer those questions and your family history. And if you have a 20% or higher risk of breast cancer, obviously you're going to need to be screened differently than when just having a mammogram once a year. And last but not least, if you want to get into talking about genetic cancer risk assessment, if you have very strong family histories of cancer, getting genetically screened is helpful, because then we can really drill down and say, wow, like you may have a 30 or 50 or 60 or 80% risk of breast cancer, and we need to develop a true risk management plan for you around that, which could even include removing your breast prophylactically. So I don't know if that helped explain dense breasts, but all of those folks end up seeing us once a year. We develop a risk management plan for them, and we try to stick to it as best we can based on, the various discipline levels and financial levels of a patient, what they can and can't afford based on their insurance.
I've never heard that term, high risk breast. So that really shines a light on, like, if you do have family history, or if you do have dense breasts, or if you do have some of these, like you are checking the boxes, I think looking at it that way is super helpful, because I feel everybody I talk to, every woman, they have dense breasts. So that's why I felt like, I'm like, well, everybody has dense breasts. So what's going on?
Yeah. It depends on how dense, and then your other risk factors, for sure.
Yeah.
How long has that screening tool been around? Because I don't know, maybe I've just been in the thick of it, but I feel like I've only begun hearing about it, and just it was kind of in the forefront of my mind. And obviously I was screened when I came to you in like the last few years. Am I crazy? Like maybe I'm totally off base, but
the original screening tool was called the GAIL Model Risk Assessment Tool. It's GAIL, and anyone can do it, and it'll spit out. It's actually a pretty predictive model. Again, first period, goes through a number of risk factors that we know of that can increase your risk for breast cancer. There's also more sophisticated tools that take into account family, not just first degree relatives, but like cousins and aunts and uncles. Gives you even more of a robust drill down on your risk. And then finally, obviously, genetic cancer risk assessment if you carry a gene. So the GAIL model's been around for at least 2 decades or longer. True comprehensive genetic cancer risk assessment, probably more like a decade. And next generation testing, I believe, based on how they actually look at the DNA and how they look at detecting these genetic mutations, I believe it's been around since 2016. So yeah, about a decade.
Okay. So really, it sounds like what you're about is like get into the funnel, get into the risk
Yes.
assessment funnel as
Yep.
soon as you can, and explore all the bits and pieces of that funnel takes you to, and make sure you're taking advantage. I mean, I'm using kind of a simple analogy, but
Yeah, and you want the key words are like, is there a high risk breast physician in your community? Is there a high risk breast clinic program? And it's a very programmatic approach to taking care of that subset of the population. So, and like I said, the key is if you're 20% or higher risk, you're high risk breast, and there are a number of things that put you in that category.
So can we talk about HRT and breast cancer?
Sure.
What are your thoughts, opinions, feelings, research that you've seen? We hear a lot of things out there on the interwebs about this, and I think it has potential to scare some women like myself. So I'm just curious where hormone replacement therapy falls into the life of a woman who is at risk for breast cancer.
Yeah, that's complicated.
Yeah.
It's kind of like playing n-dimensional Star Trek chess.
oh, is that all?
Yeah, it really is. But to simplify, and I'll oversimplify, let's say you're a high risk breast patient and you have an increased risk of developing estrogen or progesterone receptor positive breast cancer. The last thing you want to do is go on hormone replacement, because you could have a small little occult tumor in there, occult meaning we don't know about it yet. And now I'm feeding estrogen and progesterone to that tumor and making it grow faster, bigger, faster, better, more, right? And so in a high-risk breast patient, depending on their risk, we try to dissuade people from hormone replacement. Having said that, we know that hormone replacement improves bone health. There's some studies, some but not all, that says that hormone replacement improves cardiac health. Well, cardiac disease is still the number one killer of women on the planet. So you're balancing out the pros and cons and the needs of the individual patient. But the average person who's not a high-risk breast patient, hormone replacement has not been shown to increase your risk of breast cancer significantly. We initially thought it did, and we found data that showed it didn't. Then we had data that said, oh, you can do it for up to 10 years, and now even that is being undone. So in general, hormone replacement does not increase your risk of breast cancer. But I'm using this fit. Some of the physicians could listen to this and say, what is she saying? It's a decision that you really want to make with a physician who knows you, your other health issues. There's certainly no blanket statement that says, oh gosh, hormone replacement causes breast cancer. I don't know if that's helping a little bit without getting too in the weeds.
It's about doing your due diligence. Like we've had a couple, 1 to 2 HRT experts on the show, and they're basically saying what you're saying. But like in my case, right, I'll just put me out there as an example, right? So I was on progesterone, then I came into your clinic, we did all the research, I got tested for the BRCA gene, and I can't remember what my score is, but it's around like 39. So not like easy breezy, but not like the worst thing ever. And I remember having a conversation with you before I was tested, and you were like, okay, so this is kind of a litmus test, because if you test positive for the BRCA gene, we're going to have to talk much more significantly about more severe prophylactic measures, like potentially like basically a double mastectomy. If you don't test positive, then it's a whole other conversation entirely. So when I talked to my women's health doctor and I was like, okay, so, what else can we be doing here? She mentioned estrogen. She was like, look, we can talk about this, but you need to talk to Dr. Kollmorgen. Like, I'm not going to go forward with this unless she weighs in, and you happen to be okay with it in terms of dosage. But it's like you're saying, it's not like a yes or a no. Like, again, get yourself in that funnel, get all the information rolling so that your physicians can help you make the best decisions about what you want.
You nailed it. That's exactly right. We've gotten into this age right now where no one trusts anyone. No one trusts even doctors, which just, I have to tell you, as someone who's devoted my life and my work and made so many sacrifices, family and social and everything else, to become the best subject matter expert I can. It just breaks my heart that people can't trust. Again, it's one of those things that increases stress. And I think that of all the things that's broken, or all of the things that are broken right now in our society, the lack of trust, I've always said this, trust is 1,000 steps up and an elevator ride to the bottom. And it's dark down there. And I don't like that. And I think we have to get back to, one, earning the trust as physicians, and two, I think people have to be open to listen to people who have experience. Someone asked me today, what are you going to do when you get in there? How do you know how many nodes to take? And I finally looked at him and I said, you've got to trust me. I've been in over 10,000 bodies. You can't read about what to do. I just know it based on, some of it's just feel and intuition and knowledge of things that I can't even explain. It's just because I've been in 10,000 bodies. That's how I know, and I think that, we got to give these people that have done that some credibility, but we also have to earn it at the same time.
Yeah,
And
I think
we
people talk about the trust recession, and without diving into that particular rabbit hole, I think you're right. It's invaded so many different parts, and I would think, when you're going through a breast cancer diagnosis, like you said, you don't have a map. Like, you're just trying to do the best you can to go through it. And so, God, how awful must that be if you don't trust the information that you're being given and you don't know how to navigate it. That makes it 10 times harder.
If you have the wherewithal to find someone who you do feel that way about, you keep looking until you find it, because these are really important decisions that you're making that are going to potentially affect the rest of your life. And so it's okay to get a second opinion, or keep, do what you can, even if you're losing some time. A lot of times people feel so stressed that they have to get this cancer removed immediately, and they jump too quickly to make a decision about how they want to do it because they feel like they're on such a time clock. But I would say, tamping on the brakes just a moment to make sure that you're with the person that's working with you. Most people know when they walk in a room if they're going to get along with their doctor or understand, each other. It's like going into a restaurant. You kind of know, do I want to eat here? Maybe not. Or even a clothing store. You walk in, there's just sort of a feel that you get, and just being open to listening to that, because I think it's really important to have a good relationship with your cancer doctor.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corachella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
I would think so. Just for the mental and emotional part of it, just to be able to be more at ease. Because, oh yes, I trust this person. This person is experienced and educated and has been in 10,000 bodies and it wants what's best for me. But can you walk us through, if the worst case scenario happens and you do get a diagnosis of breast cancer, what are the next steps, and how do you walk women through making those decisions?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm glad that you asked it. So we are part of a study through the Dartmouth Center for Shared Decision Making. Because again, a decision has to be the patient's, not the doctor's. So our goal is to present the information. Unfortunately, in breast cancer world, you do have some nice decisions. It's always nice to have decisions, but sometimes decisions are scary and you don't have enough really knowledge to know, what am I making? How do I make this decision? So the classic decision in breast cancer is, do we remove the entire breast, or do we do a lumpectomy? And there are some pros and cons to either one of those options. And so what we use, it's called SHARE, and it was crafted by the Dartmouth Center for Shared Decision Making. And it's an action grid, basically putting into pictures 2 columns where you can look and see, okay, I have this choice or I have that choice, and what do I think about with each of the choices? And it's a combination of visual diagrams as well as data presentation. And in all patients who we know are going to have that choice, we try to send that out ahead of time before they even have their visit. So we do what's called a wellness promise call, where once that referral comes in, our referral coordinators give us the patient data and the information. We pick up the phone and say, hello, this is Dr. Christine Kollmorgen from Oregon Surgical Wellness. I'm sorry about your breast cancer. I just want you to know we have your referral, because a lot of times they don't know, does my referral go anywhere? Does it go in a circular file somewhere? We're working through it. We're trying to get all the different pieces and parts of your chart together so that you can have a meaningful visit. In the meantime, we want you to look at this Dartmouth Shared Decision Making link. If you have time to read it ahead of time, that's great. If not, you can read it after. But they come in with some modicum of understanding of what their choices are that they maybe even slept on, the night or two before they come into the visit. And then we review that with them during the visit. And that it seems to, they've measured the data on patients who got that versus didn't get that, and they just feel a little bit more informed. Because again, remember, the Institute of Stress will tell us most patients only remember 1/3 of what we tell them in that visit. And so here you are trying to make this really heavy decision. You don't even remember it. You can't even remember it. But if you've seen it before the visit, and then you see it again at the visit, and then you take it home with you, for those that are undecided, they tend to be able to make the decision. And so that's kind of how we walk them through what their decisions are. But you're given a fire hose of information in an hour visit, or maybe even a 45-minute visit if I'm running late, like I was today. And so I would say the vast majority of my patients have done some reading. People are becoming more savvy. So they've been on ChatGPT or Google or something and have a little bit of an understanding of what's going on. And I'd say most of them after the visit know what they want to do, what they want, how they want to proceed. So that's helpful.
Talk a little bit about the very real factor of equity and access, right? And let's just call it what it is, right? Black women face a higher mortality and an earlier onset than white women, like, period, end of story. And also the issue of women that don't have access to insurance or don't have a geographical area where they're well served and have practitioners, right? So I know those are 2 very different things, but maybe you can kind of give us some understanding of, if I am a woman of color, does this change the advice that you've given? If I do have issues with insurance and other things, are there other things that you recommend? I mean, I know I'm asking a comment on like a huge thing, but maybe break that down a little bit.
Yeah, sure. What you're talking about is social determinants of care. And those potential barriers to care are typically, collected in intake questionnaires as the patients are coming into our system. But that's assuming we're getting them into our system. Mm-hmm. That means they were able to see someone else that was able to get them to us. We, I can't do a lot for the patients who are out there who can't even find us, which is tragic. And I'm sure, Eugene, as you know, has its share of folks without homes, and it has its share of poverty, and there's probably a lot of people that have issues like this that they can't even get in the door. There is unfortunately no magic treatment for breast cancer other than conventional therapy. Of course, integrative therapy helps, but most people who have social determinants of care barriers can't get integrative therapy either. It's not like they can go pay for an acupuncture session or have a consultation with a naturopath who knows something about cancer to help them get in the right direction, not to mention everything costs money. So the good news is once they get into the system, regardless, in my office anyways, regardless of their ability to pay insurance, non-insurance, all of those things, we've got a lot of resources and places to procure care for them, even if they're not a legal citizen in our country. I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and I have not ever encountered a patient who had breast cancer I was not able to care for, not once in my whole entire career. So that's the good news. The bad news is getting in to the system is often the barrier. And I don't have a good answer for that. I wish I did. In terms of, those resources, I would just say for anyone in the Oregon or in my community, Oregon Cancer Foundation is an amazing organization that I was president of and served on the board of for 7 years. And it provides micro grants for patients who, for example, let's say they were trying to get, they couldn't get to their chemo appointment because they had no gas money, or they needed new tires for their car, or it was a choice between gas to get to chemo and paying their electric bill. It takes care of those types of things. It's not cash, but it's bills being paid. And it's completely, 100% grant and donor generated. And it's my favorite charitable organization. So anyways, I'm not doing a good job explaining what do you do if you're a person of color or someone who is disenfranchised from the system. How do we get in? I don't know, but I can tell you if you get in, you're going to get the same care that anyone of means would get in my office.
Would you suggest like Susan G. Komen Foundation?
Yeah, Project Pink is also a good one. The American Cancer Association is a good resource. Oregon Cancer Foundation are good resources. They at least kind of direct you. And I've actually had folks that are not from our area that contact Oregon Cancer Foundation, and there are sister organizations. And what's wonderful is that the Oregon Cancer Foundation almost serves as I don't want to say a clearinghouse, but a touchstone to other potential sources of aid and help.
Okay, that's great. I'll put that in the show notes. That's good stuff. Should we bust some myths?
Let's bust some myths.
About the bust?
So the first myth is, I don't feel a lump, I'm fine.
I will say that mammograms are the single best source of early detection. And if you've got a mass that's a centimeter or greater, you will find it on the mammogram most likely. Breast exam, I want to tell you, keep doing them, but they're probably the least effective way to find a cancer.
Okay, that is good to know. Okay, I don't need to have a mammogram now. I'll wait until I'm 50 when the risk is the highest. I know what you're going to say, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're seeing a skyrocketing number of young people with breast cancer. We didn't touch upon that. That's a whole nother podcast. Very special subset of folks, new uncharted territory. You really have to take your family history into account. If you've got a family history and you're a high-risk breast patient, ideally you would start 10 years before the first person that had breast cancer in your family was. So if you're 50, you're starting at 40. If you're 40, you're starting at 30, things like that. Baseline mammogram at 40, great idea. Every other year to 45, great idea. And then every year after 45 is my tried and true. And there's associations that have poked holes at that here and there, but that's what I say.
Yeah. Side note, my daughter, she's 27 and she has breast cancer. Both of her grandmothers had it. 2 of her aunts on her dad's side. Luckily, she's negative for the BRCA gene, but it's like I worry about. I worry about her so much. Okay, dense breasts just mean that it's harder to read a mammogram. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm at a higher risk.
Wrong. dense breasts have an increased risk of harboring a cancer, and it's not just because of a detection issue. And that's because if you really think about it, busy breasts get in trouble.
In so many ways. I feel like that's like an anagram for something.
It must be.
Okay.
It must be.
Here's one. I don't need a mammogram if I have an ultrasound. Ultrasound should replace mammograms.
Yeah. I have a lot of patients who think that. What you really need to think about is mammograms are really good at detecting breast cancer, some breast cancers. Ultrasounds are good at detecting others. What you're going to miss on an ultrasound are fine microcalcifications that often are signs that one has something called ductal carcinoma in situ. So if you think about it, cancers typically start in a duct, they grow, the fluid inside that duct petrifies. When it petrifies, it creates these fine granular calcifications that show up beautifully on a mammogram. You may not have a mass until much later. So it's the way to detect cancer at its baby place, and you're never going to see that on an ultrasound. So it really is the go-to screening tool, best bang for your buck in terms of early detection. That doesn't mean it's perfect, but it population health-wise, it is the best.
So, I mean, I know what you're going to say, but an MRI is always overkill.
Always overkill. Huh, that's interesting. Oh boy, that's a big debate. No, an MRI is a wonderful tool for a high-risk breast patient. It's a wonderful tool for someone who already has a breast cancer. For example, if we detect a breast cancer in you and it's small and you're thrilled, if we get an MRI in every person, thrilled because it's small, every person that has a breast cancer, about 18% of the time we're going to find something else in either breast. Not necessarily another cancer. It could be another precancer, or it could be another stone that we need to turn over to make sure it's not a cancer. And occasionally we're going to find a contralateral, other side, or ipsilateral, same side breast cancer. So I saw a patient like that today. She had her mammogram. It showed a mass. She had a biopsy. She got her MRI. She's got a breast cancer on the other side. Nothing showed it. Mammogram didn't show it. And so if we had never done her mammogram or MRI, I would have operated on her, and next year she'd be back with a new cancer on the other side.
Ready? There is no pain with cancer.
Yeah, a lot of times people say, "Oh wow, I have this sore lump. It's a cyst. It's it's just a cyclical mass, and that if it's sore, it's not cancer." That's the myth.
What?
I will say, yeah, if it's sore, it is not cancer. That's the myth. I would say it's true. Rarely is breast cancer painful. Rarely, but that does not mean that it's never painful. So bottom line is, when in doubt, take it out. In general, take it out means at least get a biopsy. And so a mass needs to be explored regardless of whether it's sore or not. It just needs to be, bring it to the attention of a medical professional who can then order the appropriate test to rule it in or out.
Okay.
So what do you wish that every new patient asked you on the very first visit, and why?
Wow. I would wish and a lot of patients do ask, what can I do to help myself during this journey? If you're talking about a breast cancer patient, are there things that I can do to make this process smoother for myself, to take some control of this very uncontrolled situation? I think patients that ask that are open. It means that they're open to listening, they're open to suggestion, they're open to helping me heal them and heal themselves.
I like that. So finally, what is the most important thing you want midlife women to know about breast cancer?
Oh, I think the most important thing is that the cure rate for breast cancer has taken off in the last 20 years. I'm old enough. I'm sadly heading towards 61. I've been doing this long enough to remember times when we took patients to the operating room when they didn't know if they were going to wake up with a breast or not, which sounds absolutely barbaric to me at this point, but I actually did that because that was standard of care. And the amazing treatments that we have now, even though the incidence of breast cancer has gone up, the success rate of our treatments truly has improved dramatically. And I have this phenomenal, like, multi-decade view of it. And I would never have known that the first 2 to 4 years of my practice. But, you know, humans do come up with pretty cool inventions, and we still have a zeal to improve and cure. And we still seem to be muddling through despite all the societal issues that we have in our technological advances. And truly, artificial intelligence is going to make that even better. I mean, I can't even imagine. I'm sad that I'm 60 because I think 10 years from now, this is going to be a totally different disease process. Probably won't need surgeons. I think the de-escalation of surgery will be dramatic because of our therapy. And it's not the end of the world. It's going to change you. You're not going to be the same person. But it's so hopeful right now. And as scary as it is, I mean, it's very scary. There's such good promise and success rate and great outcome rate of treatment now. And that's a really hopeful thing that should help people get through.
Absolutely. Well, wow.
I think that's a fantastic way to put a bow on this. Like, I love that. Like, ending with hope. I think you gave our listeners incredible information. You gave them some actionable steps, some things that they can do to take a hold of their health, their breast health. Thank you. Thank you. I have goosebumps. I'm glad. Makes me emotional. Sorry, I don't know where that's coming from, but thank you so much for being here, for sharing this time with us, for educating us and our listeners. We appreciate you so much.
This is just
Thank you for having me.
An amazing way to kick off. It's become an annual series, our Celebrating the Twins series that we do in October. And this is an incredible way to kick it off. We're going to have one other episode. I'm super excited about talking to one of my friends that's a survivor, but my gosh, this is so jam-packed with information and resources, y'all. Like, this is wonderful. I'm so excited that we got to bring this to us. So thank you so much, Dr. Kollmorgen. Everybody, you know the drill. It seems a little like silly to be like, share, follow, but you know, we got to say it. Make sure, especially for this episode, that you've subscribed to our Pod Squad. We're just hammering this because there's not a lot of you on it, and we really want to get as many people as possible on it. This would be the episode that I'd be like, oh, I need to join that, because I don't know how anybody's pen could write fast enough to get all these nuggets there. So please, we're not going to spam you, nothing horrible. Just join the Pod Squad. Link is in the show notes.
And this is an episode, share with a girlfriend, share with the women in your life, share with your sisters, your friends, your coworkers. Like this, we need this information in as many ears as possible, because that's how we can make a difference with this crazy disease.
Share with the girls.
Oh, I love it. Celebrating twins.
I wear this pin, and it's amazing how many people don't notice it.
Oh my God, I love that. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're going to say cheers.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you all next time. Cheers.
Take care.